What's going on, everybody? Krusty Old Crow is back. I am doing a TCCC. For those of you new to the channel, it stands for the Crow's Customs Corner. It's what I do when I'm not buying the figs and setting them up on the shelf and remembering my childhood by looking at these amazing Joe figures. It's when I tear them apart and turn them into other things, or build vehicles and backdrops, or just add little touches here and there. And today I want to talk about one of the touches that I really I feel helps all figure lines when you're dealing with a toy that you love so much, but there's something just lackluster about it, and people want to complain about it, and that's fine to complain about things if you can't do anything about them. But if you possess certain skills or knowledge that allows you to do things about it, you should utilize them. And I talk, of course, about the creative-minded and the artistic people, whether they know they have it or they want to find out if they have it, or they've never had it and they want to find somebody else who has it. Sometimes you have to help these figures along. We all love our G.I. Joe Classified. I don't know anybody who's bought a G.I. Joe Classified and gone, this figure is without potential and there's nothing going for it. Absolutely not happening. You'll hear criticisms, you'll hear harsh divide over whether the design was good or not, but you won't hear them sit there and say the classified line is without any redeeming qualities. And usually focus is on making the characters look really cool, right? Reminding you of what you grew up with if you were of that age. We're introducing you to some classics with a more modernized appeal if you're new to the line, and we all love it. But what is the figure without the accessories? If Blowtorch's weapon were all one color, would it have been as popular? If this were all just black, and this were all just one type of gray, nobody would have loved it as much. Kind of like how these earlier weapons, although these are sci-fi examples, are just an example, how a lot of the classified weapons don't bother with detail on their weapons. So you have an outstanding, stellar figure where all the detail that was important is what really brings you into that character. Look at the details in those eyes. Look at the detail in that balaclava. We never knew you wore under this helmet like that unless you read the comics and whatnot, right? Look at the details of all the vests and things like that. We didn't have a kid. And then look how lackluster and without color they actually are. Not a lick of gunmetal, not a lick of silver, not a lick of color. All that money spent to make this figure compelling went into the actual buck, the face, the immediate recognized accessories. But the weapons are never important. Not enough to get the attention. Very rare do they ever get the attention unless they are so key to that character. For example, Torch, key to the character. A safety flare pistol, key to the character. Sure, right? But if we were to just use a standard Cobra Sten type weapon, not key enough to the character to get color. So why don't we do it ourselves? Well, for those of us that don't have the art supplies, the skill, the inclination, the time, or the desire, there's options. You can go to guys like John over at Top Fun Retro Toys 3D, who I had on the show a few weeks ago, and who I bought this beautiful M4 type off of with the painted. It's all painted. It came to me all painted with all those cool color differences. Now this weapon felt very real in the Josephs, right? Now my Cobra Trooper, bad example, but we'll use the right one. You guys didn't like that 60th anniversary loadout kit, huh? Fuck you. But what if we didn't focus on his kit and just focus on how cool the buck looked with the right kit? What if you were to paint some of it? What if you? Okay, I get not everybody's gonna do it. I'm saying, look around. Explore your Amazon, explore your Etsy, explore your Kingsverse, explore Facebook, explore YouTube. You'll find guys that do this for you, and they'll do it at a fair price if that's what you like. All right, if the kit's that big of an issue. Of course, we know that Valivers, they go a little bit of extra mile. They'll let you know the guns are important. They'll put those details. Like I said, Hasbro will do it with characters where that gun is mostly part of the story. Vala will do it with most of their primary weapon. But their secondary weapon, very much similar. you know, just, it's an afterthought, okay? If the accessories were so important, wouldn't we get washes and dry brushes on them, right? Sure, but then your character would probably go up by an extra $15 to $20 just for the paints alone, right? At some point, they gotta draw a line and say, that's as detailed as we're getting with that. And they've done well. They've given you detailed weapons. They've given you awesome stuff. So here's one that I got off of John as well, I believe, over at 3D Toys, and I've painted up. So what I'm going to show you today is my approach to how I paint these weapons up. So you'll see I've done a batch of desert CAD-PAT weapons for my arid and mountain region operators, not desert, sorry, an arid and mountain CAD-PAT for my arid and mountain, you know, themed troops, which would incorporate guys like Trigger, a couple 60th anniversary, and a couple of customs I've got in the background, right? I wanted new weapons for them. I wanted weapons for other characters that I didn't think had very good weapons. You know, crossing over of Oliver's Duster with doing a wash on the head of a tracksuit Mafia from Marvel, and then adding my own weapon from, it's either, one of them is, some of these are actually from Top Fun Retro Toys 3D, where I bought them at Joe Fest, and some of these are actually from our good friend Model Misfits. If you're not following his channel, do so. Also known as Loki Wartooth, prints that I bought off him. Look at that. And they include little things that you can highlight, like, you know, an upside down mag, because that's how that works. Click, click, right? You can do that kind of stuff for your guns, guys. I'm gonna show you how I go about it in this video. So I'm gonna leave my backyard. I'm gonna go back in time to when I started painting some of these batches up, and I'll show you. I've done 3 different styles for the video. I've done the arid mountain region kind of stuff. I'm doing the urban. And what will get you about this one is this is not a classified or Valiverse weapon. This is a cheap Buckshee, under $5 weapon kind of toy from a different line, a cheaper line. And I'll show you just some shotguns I'm doing. And the last one, just for shits and giggles, where did I put her? We made a custom weapon for Patches here, right? And I'll show you how I got that one done, okay? So I'm going to show you how I go about my dry brushing, my detailing, my washing. I'll talk about the priming, the steps I use, how much paint I'm using, what a wet palette is, and my approaches to it to help me get some of these things done. And I'll try and remember to tell you, you know, to put the matte varnish on there before you put them in your Joe's hands, unless you like repainting your handles. All of that coming up in this video, so please stick around. If you're liking it, if you want to share it with other custom guys or bounce ideas off each other, you can share it. You can do whatever you want with this video. Once it's out there, I'm not in control anymore. I just smile and nod and say thank you. All right, let's get at it. All right, let's start with the test, just to get a feel for what we're dealing with here on these guns that we're going to be painting. I know what you guys say, you don't like tests, you don't understand, don't worry, I'll make it easy. We're just going to throw a couple warm-up questions. First off, can you see which ones are painted? Let me show you. Right there, that was easy. Those ones aren't painted, the other ones were. All right, warm-up's over. Out of this next one, I'm going to ask you to spot the difference between a dollar store one and a classified one. Take a good look. Can you see which one's the dollar store? There it is. All right, warm-up's over. Time to begin the test, guys. Question number 1. Can you spot which one isn't from the classified or 3D print? It's that one. It's from Michaels. Okay, that was cheap. You didn't think I was going to throw Michaels in there? I was just showing you an example. You don't have to get them from anywhere. You can get them from everywhere. So let's move on to the second question. Out of these ones, which ones are from the dollar store? You see, right there. Okay, so you had McFarlane, you had Classified, and you had dollar store. Yeah, and the thing is, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So on the third one, here we go. Which one of these are from the dollar store? That's right. There were 3 of them there. Okay, and the point I'm trying to make is I'm going to show you that just because a gun's made cheaply and everything doesn't mean it has to look cheaply. But I mean, it doesn't just happen because you want it to happen. There's some supplies we're going to need. There's a process to do it. So let's show you supplies. I'm going to need an X-Acto knife to cut flash off, for example. Flashes is just little lines and sprue mold lines of leftover plastic that a lot of cheaper presses create when they make the weapons. Good companies know to cut it off already. And if I want to make sure my paint sticks, I'm going to want to prime this. Now I can either use my airbrush primers or cans of the Krylon. Either way, that's going to affect which paints I use. And I only mean that in simply that if you're going to use an airbrush, you have to have dedicated airbrush paints or thinners for the ones you have. Conversely, you could buy a primer that you can apply with a paintbrush by hand, or, like I said, the Krylon Max, which is what I use most cases. I find that's an effective primer. I'll use a black, and then I'll lightly dust it with a gray. Moreover, there are more accessible items that don't require you to invest in an airbrush and a compressor. But just like some of those shitty guns, you can get paint from the dollar store as well, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'd look into the known hobby paints like Vallejo, Citadel, Model Color, and the others, as the quality of those paints won't suffer on the already suffering plastic of those guns. And so while paints are actually a must for you to paint guns, these washes aren't necessarily. You can make your own washes. However, sometimes it's better to just buy the ones that you already know achieve the effect they're reputed to have and pretty much guarantee. That's what I like to do, but I will create my own washes. In fact, when I do the pink boarding gun for patches, you'll see I had to create my own pinkish red wash. So you'll want wash brushes if you're using washes, same as you'll want applicators for weathering if you're using weathering. In fact, the manner in which I laid out the video, I believe I start with showing you some weathering, and it's all after the whole process is done. It's really my final effect. That lighter has no bearing on this situation whatsoever. Ha ha ha. Unless everything goes really south, then I can use it with this and I can just get rid of all evidence. No, this acrylic matte varnish, it doesn't matter. It always leaves some sort of a sheen. That's why I weather after I put the protectorant varnish on my stuff. That varnish is what's going to keep the paint from chipping off really easily. And when you're dealing with the cheaper plastics and whatnot, you probably want that extra layer of protection if you're slipping this in and out of hands or off backpack posts, right? But now we got to get back to painting this. So in order to do that, you're going to need some brushes. And that's really a matter of what you want to do. What you see here is 2 dry brushes and a fine brush. And when you see the videos, you'll see me using things like this regular fine dry brush. You'll see me wiping paint off it before I'm brushing it on, because that's the key. It's almost dry, devoid of paint when you're brushing it on there. But sometimes I'll use it in heavier layers, but I've done so with experience of what I want to do. The fine tip brush is a different story. The fine tip brush, I'm even using less paint. You can see that little dab of white on the end, and it's because the details are so small and the weapon's so plain. I don't want a whole lot of paint. This is for too much use. I find that too much on the end of the detail brush when you're doing weapons. So just be advised, like that fine tip, you get used to micro dotting. As I have no desire to talk all through the video, I'm going to get you from here to here with these weapons, just walking you in through some of the materials that I'm using and the approaches, but more showing you. And as I really don't want to talk through this video, you're going to get interrupted by music going on. If I see things I got to point out, I'll point them out. But guys, just kick back. Here I am. I'm building my wet palette. You can see it's just standard wax paper over a couple sponges in a container with water, filled to the line of the sponges, and then that moisture is going to be what captures the paint. I'm going to grab some red paint here. I'm going to give it a little shaky shake, and I'm going to put that daub on there. And what you're going to pay attention to is where the paint meets the surface. And I'll just tell you what's happening here. This is the wet palette you want. It'll keep this paint fresh for hours over your standards, right? The reason why is because it's wicking moisture out of that paper that's sitting on the water layer. So that paint stays fresh much longer. You'll see me use this thing throughout for all the paints I'm using. You'll see me wipe paint away from it as I go. But that's the start point for me. And as I get started here, you can see I've got the paper towel laid out. The wet palette's not there because right now I'm going to get into weathering. But you want your paper towel, you want your cup of water to clean your brushes, and you want your projects. Today we're going to focus on these 3 rifles. The one that I'm pointing at now, which has already been painted up in my mountain region, and it's had the varnish applied to protect the paint. But now I'm going to weather that just with a Q-tip and with these weathering powders by Tamiya. I'm going to get that out of the way, and then I'm just going to press play on some good old generated YouTube music that you don't recognize from anywhere on the radio, and we'll just buzz through this video and you'll watch the way I'm painting these rifles. I'm going to do an urban assault rifle for my guy Tank, who is basically just a shockwave with the shield inverted. I wanted a rifle that sat up nice, so I'm going to use a dollar store bullpup weapon, which is the gray primed one. I'm going to do up that pink weapon that you saw with my mechanic Fortnite there, the one I nicknamed Patches. I'm going to do that pink up with little hand-drawn white hearts on it. And I'm going to do a whole bunch of these weathered up desert ones. You'll see throughout the video every now and then. The reason I'm not showing you painting the cam pat is because after I got done them is when I decided I would do a video about it. But these are using the very same principles and very same brushes and everything like that. Look at me go over weathering. All right. Why am I over weathering? Because these are arid, these are mountain kind of weapons. It's dusty out there, boys. If you drive 10 feet, your weapon's turning brown. Trust me, unless you've got it in a case. So that's kind of why I over weathered, but that just comes from personal experience. At all points through this video, what you see me doing is just my approach. You guys can develop your own approach with what you become comfortable with. Maybe you prefer hand painting over airbrushing. Maybe you prefer airbrushing over standard priming. Who cares? It's just a matter of what you feel like. But have fun with your weapons, because this is what I did. And man, I tell you, boys, customizing figures, customizing vehicles is one thing. But customizing all the weapons on my shelf that aren't originally classified has become my new little crack. It really does seem to bring out something in those figures. So finish watching the weathering part. I'll show you the dry brushing part. You'll see where I decided to add details to certain things, and I'll whip through it. And you'll see kind of how I'm holding my brush, where I'm using the palette and things like that, and we'll get through this video. I'd say enjoy the music, but yeah, this isn't like Instagram where I can have any song I want. Here, I gotta pay people. I ain't doing that. All right, thanks guys. We'll see you towards the end. quick before it passes by. That little red circle at the bottom of your screen is the reddish wash that I made to wash my pink, because I didn't have a pink wash and my crimson had worn out. So really I just took the light cherry kind of red and I watered it right down, and you'll see me really kind of saturating this and then wiping some of it out with a thick, I don't give a shit about it kind of brush. I don't even care if I go over the black, because I'll be going over all that stuff again later. Good time for hiccups to show up. Anyways, I just wanted to let you know, you don't have to buy washes. You can get a feel for how to make washes as you go. It's not the hardest thing to do. course, after I did my dry brush, I went over the details again. I just hand drew some little hearts on there. And all that is, just like when you first saw that detail brush, that little kiss of white, 2 dots and then connect them. A left dot, a right dot, and then connect them in a downward angle and fill in the blanks. And that's all it is. It lets me make little ones. Hell, I even took the fire selector switch. One heart, 2 heart, no hearts. And then there's the batch of the tan guns I got done well before I started this video. So they were in the process of getting some weathering done. I believe the double drum got done, but the sniper rifle hadn't, right? And even that sniper rifle, that wasn't earlier in the video. Guess what, guys? Cheap little Bakshi toy store gun, not at all classified or Vala, just like the bullpup to the right. That sniper rifle to the left was another dollar store toy. So guys, that's it. Just have some fun with your stuff. Like Punk with Toys always says, no one's coming to take your toys away. Do what you want to do.